Hi, my name is Tammy,
My name's Darla.
and today we are doing a podcast on Darla, former alcoholic, been in rehab, in and out of rehab 4 times, right? And she told me that she shouldn't feel like she shouldn't be alive today because she's overcome some serious battles. Are you ready to talk about it, Darla?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. Um, where do we even start? So let's just start with what you want. What message do you want to convey to our audience today to give them hope?
That nothing is impossible with God.
Wow. Okay.
That's the message I'd like to portray.
Okay. Yeah. So I actually turned to God too the last few years based on my experience. But I'm still a bit of a seeker, like the questioner, right? Because I'm more of a I'll see it when I believe it. But why do you believe in God?
Because He's been with me since the very moment of my life when, in the good times and the bad times. And not only have I seen His presence in my life, but I've also felt it and experienced it.
Oh, wow.
And I've actually had visions of me and Jesus and different times in my life when I was in trouble. Jesus was there, and He was my comforter, He was my friend, He was my salvation, He was my healer,
Wow.
He was my everything. So
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. You know what? I don't like I have so many questions because we've talked about a little bit of it, right? I remember when I first met you, I was like, I don't want to hear the whole thing because I want to hear it on camera. But like we just uncovered so much. So that's why right now I'm like, where do we even start? But let's start with your first drink.
Okay.
Yeah, our first conversation about your first drink.
Yeah. The first time I ever tasted alcohol
Yeah.
was when I was about 9 years old. My grandpa offered me a glass of whiskey.
Yeah.
And I never really thought anything of it, but it was just kind of like, oh, I'm going to try this. So I tried it. And then I think my next time was we were at a family wedding, and I kind of started sneaking stuff there. I wanted to just kind of experiment, right?
Yeah.
So my next experience after that was when I was about 14, 15, and my friend had invited me to her house, and her parents had a liquor cabinet. And me and my friend decided we were going to try everything in the liquor cabinet.
Oh my god.
And ended up very sick.
Yeah. Did
So,
you like the taste of alcohol? Because I think it's disgusting.
I don't think it was the taste of alcohol that I liked. I think it was more of the feeling that alcohol gave me.
The relief, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like, how would you describe that? Like, what did it give you relief from?
Pain.
Okay.
A lot of my pain that I was feeling at that time.
Yeah.
A lot of fear.
It went away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt more confident when I was drunk.
Liquid courage.
Yeah, liquid courage. And just, especially, when it came to meeting people, like guys especially,
Yeah.
I was a lot more confident with the alcohol in my system.
Social anxiety.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because I'm normally a very shy person.
Yeah.
I'm not very outgoing, so it was easier for me to do things under the influence.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So now, let's get to the root of the problem now. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were 14, right? Most 14-year-olds haven't really experienced the pain that you went through.
Mm-hmm.
You were adopted.
Yeah.
Okay. First Nation.
Yeah.
Adopted by a white family. I shouldn't be telling your story, but let's start there. Let's give me the why you got adopted
Okay.
and just the experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a little bit of what I know and what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
I was born to a First Nations mother who had been through residential school,
Mm-hmm.
and she had suffered her own trauma. And in her journey with the experiences that she had and the trauma that she suffered.
Yeah.
She gave it her very best shot to be a good mom,
Yeah.
you know, and I honestly believe that she loved all her children, but when you're dealing with trauma, it's a lot, especially when you're parenting.
Yeah.
And so my mom used, the way she dealt with her trauma was to drink, right? And
It's a generational.
relationships.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah,
Wow.
a lot of, I think she found comfort in the arms of a man, right?
Yeah.
Which is something I can relate with later on in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow.
so I believe my mom gave it her best shot,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because we were taken away from her and then we were put back in the home.
Oh.
And so I went in and out of foster home for the first 3 years of my life.
Oh
So,
wow. Did
yeah.
you have any like memories of it, or is it just like the trauma in your body?
Yeah, I have what are called flashbacks,
Yeah.
where I can, I remember things that happened before.
Traumatic.
Yeah,
Wow.
and so I can see like almost like pictures.
Glimpse, like yeah.
Yeah, of what happened and stuff. And the only reason that I know these pictures are true, that it happened, is because I've talked to family members that I've met now that were
Wow.
there with me or in the same situation or had gone through different things. So
Wow.
yeah, so I have flashbacks of, which are quite common with trauma,
Yeah.
you know. So
Like, how do you feel in your body right now when we're revisiting these memories?
so far I feel okay.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
it's always my body usually just starts to get tighter
Yeah.
and just, you know, a little nervous. You know, I'll start fidgeting and different things like that. So you'll probably notice my hands are fidgeting and stuff. but-
Human stuff, very human
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So, but I've talked about this, you know, quite a few times now, so I feel more comfortable sharing my story now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually, it's crazy how like the world, the reason why that we're doing this right now, me and Darla just met and we're joining force because the world needs some healing, right? There's just so much trauma in the world. There's just so much shame around the trauma because people, when we don't talk about it, we don't bring the shame into the light, we feel alone. We feel like we're the anomaly, what's the word? Anomaly, right? Is that the word?
I think so.
But honestly, it's quite normal. Like, it's quite, like, guarantee there's a lot of people that can watch this and resonate with your story. And I hope that we can convey the message of courage, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't go through 4 times of rehab and make it out alive now, right?
Yeah.
So that's just a little bit of the beginning. To give people some hope, where are you now?
Where am I now?
Yeah.
Well, I've been sober now for about 5 years
Yeah.
and off of alcohol. I have dabbled with weed
Yeah.
and stuff like that and a few other things, but I've probably been sober off of that for now about 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I am a totally different person than I was. You know, there was a time in my life when I could not even hold my head up. And I was hunched over and I would not look people in the eye. I carried a lot of shame, a lot of pain,
Yeah.
and I didn't have a lot of hope,
Yeah.
you know. And through my healing process, I've learned to discover who I am as a person and realize that, hey, this person isn't so bad after all, right?
Yeah.
And I've had some really amazing people that have walked by me in this journey
Yeah.
and have really encouraged me to seek out who I am. And also for me, one of the biggest things in my journey in recovery is that I have my faith in God.
Yeah.
And I now know that who I am in Him.
Who are you?
I'm a child of God.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I'm a child of God, and I'm the daughter of a king.
Wow.
You know, and He says in His Word that I'm royalty.
Yeah.
I'm the head and not the tail. I'm
Okay.
above and not beneath.
Wow.
You know, he says to us and that His children are we are not what the world tells us we are. He tells us who we are.
Who are we?
We are His children.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. So like my
Royalty.
interpretation. Yeah.
Sorry.
No. My interpretation of that is like we have the ability to do anything that we can perceive in this world, right? We talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
But what's stopping us is the shame and the guilt, right? And the disempowerment from the fear of judgment, right? And then you and I have, especially today, like it's just empowering conversation as to like, why don't you deserve the best, right? There's no reason for us to not deserve the best, because like you said, we are a child of God. So like this being our first episode, there's really no structure. It's just me and Darla here having a conversation. But I think the story of how we met, we gotta tell it. The story. You wanna tell it?
No, I'll let you tell.
You want me to tell? Okay. So like, as you know, I've been trying to start my podcast, or I've been starting my podcast for about a year now, right? And then on my journey, I've been trying to find people to collaborate with, because I know that you can't do things alone. And when you join force with somebody who's just as powerful and on the same path as you, we become a powerhouse. But it was just so funny. So then my car broke down, so I was kind of like stuck in my city. I couldn't really go to work, right? So then I was just going to a coffee shop to get some treats for my friend's kids, and also to get coffee, right? And then Darla was in front of me, and she was your Tim Hortons, like she had a Tim Hortons card, and there's money on it. I see on the screen there's money on it, but it wouldn't scan or whatever. And then I've been on this journey of doing just random act of kindness, right? Just to make myself feel better. It's like it's a completely selfish thing, right? So then I see that, I'm like, this is my opportunity to do something nice today. So then I offered to buy your drink, and it's funny because I tried to get her out the door quick because I knew she was like working or whatever. But then the cashier was like, the cashier didn't let me do 2 orders, right? She kind of looked at me like, what do you want? So then it gave me the opportunity to have I thought it was a small talk with Darla. It was not small at all.
No.
Yeah. And then I remember I was just like, oh yeah, like, how's your day? Right? And then you're like, it's good, I'm going to work, blah, blah, blah. And then you said you work in, she's an addiction counselor now, right?
Yeah.
Going full circle from her addiction. And I was like, my eyes lit up. I was like, that's so cool. Can I interview you? Because the thing with this mental health thing is that when we share our story in a loving and accepting way, it kills the shame. And when the shame's gone, there's no need for that addiction, right? I don't know if I said that properly, but back to the story. My eyes lit up. Your eyes lit up because she's been wanting to share her story for a long time. She even has a book written. Like she's ready, right? And she just needed somebody to come kind of give her the path. And we've had a very strange week, and both of us are ready. We're just ready. Yeah. Did I miss anything?
It's been a lot of warfare.
A lot of spiritual warfare.
Which shows me that, there's a purpose behind this.
Yeah.
That it's going to reach people that need to hear it. So.
Yeah. And I met her on Friday. We were still talking back and forth on Saturday. I got baptized. She took me to get baptized on Sunday. Right? And like the timing and stuff couldn't be more perfect. And I don't know if you believe this or not, but when I went to church with her, getting baptized, I hear a voice in my head, like not a vivid voice, but it's like, you're in the right place, right? And before I even said this to you, because I had this thought, I was like, okay, this is going to open up doors for me, because I'm also a transformation coach, right? There's the business aspect of what I do, and then there's the spiritual aspect that we're here to serve humanity. We're here to save people from the devil, pretty much. As weird as that sounds, right? But yeah, like I've only known you for 2 weeks, but it's like a whirlwind of stuff that's just been happening.
Yeah. And just so, how things have lined up so clearly.
Yeah.
And just like, we're both had like these wow moments, like, there's gotta be somebody bigger than us behind this.
Yeah, like we're here for a reason, and like, such huge indicator as to why we've joined force.
Yeah.
So basically, me and Darla are now committed to just sharing both of our stories, but now we're gonna start with her because she's ready. I'm still working on my stuff, but you know, you hear a little bit of it, and I think it complements each other. It complements the story a lot. Because the person that I love is an addict, right? That she's, you know, trying to recover, and Darla has the experience where she's been through the addiction, right? And she can kind of give the insight. So hopefully we can kind of give, you know, the mothers and the lovers of the people who love an addict some hope, right? An understanding of where they are. Because if there's no understanding, there's just judgment,
Yeah.
right? But if there's understanding, the judgment will fade,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Now what? What are we talking about? We're both flustered.
I know.
Yeah.
Do you want me to continue with my story?
Of course. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's okay.
Yes.
No, that's fine. What was I say? Oh yeah, I was about 14,
Yeah.
and I was talking about my mom and
Yeah.
her trauma and how that led.
I'm sorry. I thought
That's okay.
my
no.
brain sidetracked.
No,
Yeah.
it's I went into foster care. My first foster home, I believe, was calm and peaceful.
Yeah. Why do you say believe?
Because I don't have any memories of it.
Oh.
I've never had any flashbacks of it.
Yeah.
So my second foster home, like I went back to my mom, and then I went back into another foster home.
Yeah.
And that last foster home was,
The one that you stayed.
yeah,
Oh, they adopted you.
yeah.
Oh,
No,
I get
no,
it.
sorry, just the foster home before I was adopted. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of abuse happened in that home.
Oh.
Sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional, and
How old were you?
I was maybe I don't remember my exact age,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking between the ages of 1 and 3.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so I was very, very young. I've had many visions of even times at what I think is at my mom's house. And the only reason that I remember this is there was a lamp in that room and it was swimming back and forth. And there was a bunch of children in the room, and this man was with us. And this man was doing bad things to one of the little girls. And I shared this with one of my siblings, and they said that little girl was me. You know, and I've talked to one of my aunties, and she's shared with me about, I'll tell her a story about a white house that I've seen, and what the house looks like on the outside, and you know, things that were happening on the inside. And she's like, that was the house that you grew up in. That was the house that you know, were with your mom. So those are the ways that I know that these aren't just, you know, fake,
Like made up
stories,
yeah.
right? And so, yeah, and I've had a lot of different experience with visions and different things like that. So,
Wow.
yeah.
You were also born with fetal alcohol syndrome.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
that like?
It's been challenging. I'm very fortunate because I don't have a high spectrum of it.
Yeah.
There's a range of the spectrum, and I'm actually quite functional.
Yeah.
You know, and there's days when I wonder if it's actually fetal alcohol syndrome or if it's actually trauma. But
both.
that has been put under this, you know, a name, right?
Yeah.
So, I didn't want to believe it. You know, actually, my parents had me diagnosed when I was 18, and I had myself diagnosed twice after that because you know, everybody told me you
look
not
normal.
have this,
Yeah.
you know.
Wow.
But I honestly believe that's God. You know?
Okay, like I feel for your mom because like I could only imagine how helpless she felt, right?
Yeah.
You know, to her addiction and to the abuser.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was one thing. I never had any remorse towards my mom for giving us up.
Yeah.
Because I realized that there was something inside of me that always realized that my mom went through so much, even though
She did her best.
She did her best, and I believe that. And now myself, especially with the experiences of being a parent myself, and knowing the things that I went through, and how similar the things are that what she went through and how
Yeah.
what I went
How
through.
we can't
at the
control
same-
it, right? As
Yeah.
much as we judge people on their
Yeah.
bad decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, I believe like we need a lot of compassion for people who are in addiction and struggling as parents and dealing with trauma.
Yeah.
You know, now I'm able to understand that I've been down that road. So, you know,
Well, your trauma, as bad as it was, gave birth to your purpose,
Yeah.
right? And I think the whole purpose of this world is just to be the human that we know we could be, and to be that domino effect to other people.
yeah,
Because even for me, like I just started on my creator journey. I just started posting videos, imperfect videos of myself. What's the word? Consistently, consistently.
yeah,
And then you said you were inspired by that, right?
yes,
So now what we're hoping is for people to see this conversation in our imperfect setup. This is our first video ever.
yeah,
And for them to be inspired, to find hope. We just want to give people hope.
mm,
Because I've gone through my shit and I gone full circle, right? Found my purpose.
yeah,
You've gone through some shit.
yeah,
Full circle.
yeah.
And yeah. And I think we're gonna have a lot of fun doing this.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where this is gonna go.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit sidetracked, sorry. That's kind of what we do, so this is what we expect that. So 3 years old,
Mm-hmm.
foster care.
Yeah.
When did you officially get adopted?
It was between, I think I was 1975. I don't know the exact
Yeah.
dates and stuff, but
Yeah, no problem.
yeah, so I was about 2.5 to 3.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
I was adopted into a family where I went from a lot of abuse,
Yeah.
a lot of neglect, a lot of emotional abuse and toxicity, and I was taken into a home where there was peace and calmness,
Yeah.
right? And
It's not something you're used to.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I felt loved by these people, you know, and I had a sister at the time, but at the same time there was something that at that age I embraced it, right?
Yeah.
I think from what my parents tell me, I was very excited to meet them and very excited to go into their home,
Yeah.
and many good things came out of it, like,
Of course.
you know, so
And I think a lot of the strength that you have today comes from the love that they gave you.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, wow.
yeah. I had a good set of parents, so
Yeah. So then, now, fast forward to your first drink
yeah.
and how it went downhill because you went to rehab early.
Yeah, my first time in rehab, I think, was when I was 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you ready to?
Sorry.
Oh no, sorry, no, that's okay. Are you ready to tell us
Sure.
the why then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
The bus.
Yeah. Well, when I was 11 years old,
Yeah.
I was on a bus coming back from Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, or Winnipeg to Saskatchewan, and I was by myself, and I was on a bus, and there was a guy on the bus with me who was trying to touch me the whole time, and so I went up and I told the bus driver, this man is trying to touch me, and then the bus driver just laughed at me and told me, well, I guess you'll have to move, and he just laughed. He sat there and laughed at me.
What a dickhead.
So I made the choice to move back to another seat, and
Yeah.
but then we ended up stopping in Yorkton, Saskatchewan, and I got off the bus, and in this time that I got off the bus, he grabbed me and started talking to me, and then everybody else went into there, and then he took me down an alley and raped me. So and I was probably 11, and it was so traumatic to me that I completely forgot about the episode, right? And I got home, my mom automatically knew that there was something wrong and asked me if I was okay, and I was like, yeah, because I had completely blocked it out of my mind. It was that traumatic, so
You didn't feel the pain at all in your body at the time.
no, not that I remember, yeah, so, but now I understand that was just a trauma response, right?
Yeah, it's
So-
block it. The brain, to protect us from feeling that overwhelmment of pain,
Yeah.
yeah, they block it.
Yeah, and then something happened not even a couple weeks later
Yeah.
that triggered it, and then all the memories of it came back.
What happened?
I don't even remember. There were certain noises and
Yeah.
certain things around me
Oh.
that just, I don't know what happened, but I felt really like triggered and really scared, and I went and ran to my room, and I started having flashbacks of what happened and saw everything that happened that way. So
How do you feel right now talking about this?
I've done a lot of counseling in this area, so it's not
It's not as
that scary.
Okay.
Yeah, but it still is. Talking about this stuff is never.
it's easy.
There's
yeah,
always
it's not
something
easy.
there, right?
Yeah.
But it's getting easier as I talk, and so I've done a lot of healing in these areas. So
You're very brave for this.
no, thank you.
Yeah, because I remember one of the things we talk about is that you're nervous to be on camera for
Yeah.
this. But I challenged her today to post a video on Facebook, and she just did it. She did it with a smile.
Yeah.
2 videos.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pause there, and I want to talk about somebody. Let's just say somebody's going through this right now,
Mhm.
right? And then at that age, so if you can go back in time
Yeah.
and speak to that little you
Yeah.
in that moment of flashback, right?
Yeah.
What would you tell her?
I tell her that it's gonna be okay. You're not alone. And the reason I know I'm not alone is because I had visions with Jesus in it, and I had visions of me and Jesus sitting in the closet where I was locked in the room, and he was just holding me in his arms, and he was telling me, I'm here for you, and he held me as I cried, and he cried with me.
Wow.
And that's the first time I knew that Jesus never left me. He was always with me, right?
Yeah.
And he was my healer.
He saved you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And before that time, that was the scariest thing to even have to go back and remember.
I bet, yeah.
And I mean, it's still hard to remember. There's still a lot of emotion behind that, but I realize now that sorry, I lost my track of thought.
It's okay.
I've grown a lot from it, but I've also had to go through therapy for it, and my therapist told me, now we need to get you to walk out of that room. And I remember, and out of the house where your abuser was. And what it was is I had to walk out of the room where I was locked
In
up.
your mind's eye.
Yeah. And I had to walk out of that room where I was locked up and right by my abuser and out the door. And I was terrified. I was terrified of this man. And all I remember is Jesus being there with me, picked me up, and he said, put your head on my shoulder. So I put my head on his shoulder, and he carried me, and we walked out together.
And this is a man from the bus.
No, this is the very first foster father that I had. Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, the first time you got drunk. The first time you got drunk.
There was a lot of embarrassment and a lot of shame
Yeah.
because the first time I got drunk was probably at I think I went to a party at my friend's house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you were 14 or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and we were in the liquor cabinet, and there was a lot of shame. I grew up in a Christian home where you do not drink, you do not do this stuff, and I was like, oh man, how am I going to tell my parents this, right? So I was really scared and really shamed, right? But somehow I got by it and never had to tell anybody. But there did come a time when I actually got dropped off after another party, and I was so drunk when I was out in the community that my friends dropped me off at my parents' house.
Wow.
And that was hard, because I loved my parents and I didn't want to shame my parents. But
Yeah. They treated you well.
Yeah. I didn't know how to stop at this point.
You didn't know how to stop.
Yeah.
How old was this?
This was I was probably about 15, 16.
Wow. So you started at 14,
Yeah.
first drink, like first time
Well, my
getting
very
drunk.
first drink was at 9.
9, and then
And-
14 got the taste of being
Yeah.
drunk.
Yes. Yeah. And then from there, every time was usually I was
Yeah.
drunk. Yeah.
So now I want to kind of paint the picture for somebody. Let's say the person that's watching right now is a
Mhm.
parent,
Yeah.
and their teenage kid is going through the same thing that you're going through, and they're
Yeah.
probably wondering, why is my kid so bad? Why doesn't my kid listen? Why the defiance, right?
Yeah.
But I think you and I understand that
Yeah.
it was to numb a pain that you
Yeah.
couldn't deal with,
Yeah.
right? And what I've learned through a seminar is that everything bad that we do,
Mhm.
there's something good that comes out of it for us. That's why we do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when we're shaming just the bad part without acknowledging the good part, you don't get to fix the problem.
That's right. Yeah.
So now, question is, when you started drinking,
Mhm.
you found relief,
Yeah.
right? Of course, there's the shame, the embarrassment that came with it,
Yeah.
but let's talk about the relief that it brings to your pain.
Yeah. Well, it was just, the way I looked at it, it was a moment to step out of the pain. You
Yeah.
know, even if it was just for a moment, it was like, hey, I had,
It feels
a couple
I feel
hours
normal.
of relief from this ache in my heart, and I never knew how to get rid of that. And so for me, hey, it's even an hour is better than,
Yeah.
because it felt like my life, in a lot of my life I spent, days in pain, just constant emotional pain, and I didn't understand it. I didn't know where it was all coming from, because a lot of this stuff was, I didn't even know if like the visions that I was having or the flashbacks that I was
It's
having were real.
Yeah, there's
You
a
know?
disassociation to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So it was hard, and it was the alcohol also gave me a confidence as I got
Yeah.
older to be.
A superpower.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like a superpower, and gave me the confidence to, be something different than, because I was very uncomfortable in my body and who I was.
Yeah.
I did not have confidence. I had very low self-esteem
Yeah.
growing up, and I didn't think anybody wanted anything to do with me or get to know me. So I thought, well, if I get the alcohol, I can make people laugh, and I can get them to accept me, right?
Yeah. Be the best version of myself
Yes.
in this.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So
That's some perspective. That's some
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
Again, like, I will repeat this until the day that I die, but the root of all addiction is shame, right?
yeah,
And a lot of the times the the addiction is just a modality to heal, not to heal, it doesn't heal, but it's to minimize the pain
yeah,
without realizing that it's something that will cause more pain when it gets out of control, which is the devil's way of working.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay, so sexually abused, felt abandoned, didn't feel good enough. Alcohol fixed the problem then. So when did alcohol become the problem?
By the time I was 18,
Yeah.
when I'd had a very good upbringing,
Yeah.
but by the time I was 18, I was ready to get out there. I had just gotten a bunch of money,
Yeah.
and I got a new car, everything
You were the
was,
it girl.
yeah, and I was like, yeah, I want to go out and, live life, right?
Yeah.
So my first experience out at 18 was, the first second I stepped out of my house was to a friend's, and my friend's boyfriend
Yeah.
decided to, we were all drinking, and the boyfriend decided to get out the meat tenderizer and beat us all up with it.
Sorry, what?
Yeah,
Like those hammer thing?
yeah,
Was he drunk or
he was
like?
very drunk, yeah,
Wow.
and probably on some drugs. Wouldn't be surprised.
Just
And
out of all things, a meat tenderizer.
I know, it was kind of like, I thought so too. I was like,
Yeah.
I remember going to the shower after and being black and blue.
Actually,
Yeah.
you guys didn't beat him up back?
No.
See,
I'm
I'm
sure we tried, but
I'm feisty. Like if somebody comes at me like that, I would probably go grab like something mellow and just beat him.
I think for myself it was such a traumatic thing that I was like,
You freeze.
what is going on here?
Yeah.
You know? And
I'm a fighter.
yeah,
Wow.
I'm not. Yeah.
We're laughing just to like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, but then how did you know? I guess you it was unwilling that you went to rehab.
Mhm.
But what is it like? How did that happen?
Well, the whole situation got worse,
Yeah.
you know, and it was
Me too.
yeah. Like as time went on, he took control over me, took control over my car.
He stayed around.
Yeah.
Oh. Wow.
And it was my car, but he was driving it every day.
Yeah.
My friend left the situation, so I was left with him because I didn't know where to go.
You lived
what
with
to
him.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at this point, he was so controlling over me that I didn't know, I was scared of him. And so I stayed with him thinking that he would tell me things like, if you leave me, I'm going to come after you, or I'm going to kill your family, or
You
whatever,
believed
right?
him.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, I got to stay here and, you know, just do what he wants, right?
Wow.
He had my car too, right? So I felt kind of trapped that way. And it's like, the one time that I did try and fight back for my car, I ended up with a broken arm. And
Wow.
he took the car and
So the threats were real.
yeah, he was a very violent man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And in the end, I somehow got a hold of, I don't know if it was, I think I got a hold of my friend and I told her the situation and I said, I'm in real trouble here and I don't know how to leave this guy
Yeah.
and I need help getting out of this. So
Wow.
she called my parents called the police and the police came.
You didn't even call them directly.
No.
What were you afraid of? Mind, like aside from him
Yeah.
doing that, like you could have reached out to your parents directly, but why didn't you?
I think because I was scared. I was scared if I did, he was gonna, what
Hurt
was he
your
gonna do
parents.
to me?
Yeah.
You know, there's that big fear of what was gonna happen. You know, it was, yeah,
Wow.
so.
Damn. You know
Yeah.
what? We're just getting started on the stories.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Were you drinking every day at that point?
Oh, at that point, yeah.
Yeah.
Like anytime abuse has been in my life, especially in adulthood, you
Yeah.
know, my way of dealing with it is to drink,
Yeah.
you know?
So like a lot of the work that I do is to help people connect what they feel in their body
Yeah.
and the trigger to
Yeah.
when they go to do the bad things, right? To go into the bad habits.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But I'm just hoping to help somebody that is going through that right now, the 18-year-old
Mhm.
version of you, because it's not an isolated scenario.
No.
It happens more frequently than you know, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, the people being abused just don't want to talk about it because they want to
Yeah.
protect the other people, they don't want things to get worse, or they fear for their life.
Yeah.
So like, what did it feel like in your body? Like what is the trigger that you feel to go to because you said every time you get abused you go for a drink, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did you feel physically, mentally, emotionally, and then you go for the drink?
Just the low self-worth and just the what's wrong with me,
Yeah.
you know, and also that whole need to what did I do wrong? What did I do to make this person want to hurt me?
Yeah.
You know, because I remember as a little girl thinking that, what did I do? I'm just a little girl, and this man hurt me so bad.
He has control over you.
Yeah,
Wow.
and you know, and it was back there that this all started with my brain, right?
Yeah.
The trauma, whatever it is, and
The unworthiness.
yeah, and it's triggered things all the way through my life, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you know the alcohol brought the confidence in. The alcohol
Made it good
masked
enough.
all those places.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I can be this strong person. I don't have to feel weak and like I'm incapable.
Wow.
Because I spent a lot of my years thinking something was wrong with me.
Yeah.
And thinking that it was my fault that all this stuff happened. And yeah,
Wow.
so
Wow. Okay. So you being the drug counselor now,
yeah,
empowered, cheated death a few times.
yeah.
Talk to your 18-year-old self.
Oh boy.
Yeah. What advice would you give her?
I would ask her what is it that brought you to this point?
What is it?
And then I have them tell me what it was, right? And so what can we do with that stuff now? How can we take that baggage of junk
Literally, yeah.
and turn it into a baggage of blessings and make it something good? You know, how can we take you
Yeah.
and all the broken pieces and
Yeah.
turn it into something whole again?
It took you 18
Mm-hmm.
to 50,
Yeah.
so 32 years, which is a long journey of like abuse and re-traumatizing yourself to get to where you are today,
Yeah.
which is still very, very powerful and very good.
Mm-hmm.
But now, knowing what you know now, how do you minimize that time for somebody? Like make 10 years.
Listen to those people that tell you that this stuff isn't good for you.
But how? Like your brain is on a different program. Right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, and I mean, like I had millions of people in my life that, and I mean,
Millions.
it's hard because, until you start dealing with the trauma of your past,
Yeah.
you won't be able to become your authentic self, right? And until you're able to become your authentic self, you're not able to
Deal with the
deal.
actual reality.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that I learned about this whole addiction recovery thing is the difference between guilt and shame.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what that is?
I do offhand, but
Yeah.
I know this too, and I'm nervous. So
It's okay. Just this is all conversation.
yeah,
Yeah.
I teach about this, but I can't think of what it is at the moment.
Let me just give a short answer. So pretty much guilt is I did something bad,
Yes.
but
yeah.
shame is I am bad.
I am bad.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
So,
right. Yeah.
I think if I was to speak to the 18-year-old girl in you,
Yeah.
because scientifically, I think
Yeah.
it's been proven that a child is the most impersonable when they're between the age of 1 to 5, I think. Is that
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So from the age of 1 to 3, you got it pretty bad,
Mm-hmm.
right? So even though you were in a loving family, I feel that your subconscious, your inner child,
Yeah.
never felt that you deserved to be there.
Yeah.
And your comfort was being abused.
Yeah.
So on a subconscious level, you were going out to look for that abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even along the journey, like I later found out I'm a 60 scoop survivor.
Yeah, you were saying
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that that whole process took for me was my identity, and
Explain that.
knowing who I was, because as a little girl who's been taken away from the only security that she knows,
Her family.
and then thrown into this strange place, and now I'm being raised by these people who, like, are a different culture than me, different color than me. Well, I'm pretty white, but but that and all the trauma that I went through really brought on a distortion in my identity.
Because we were talking about how you didn't fit in with the Caucasian and you did not
Yeah.
fit in with the Native community.
Yeah. And in one sense, I was raised in a Christian home where I was taught that our Native culture is evil.
Real? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like the whole yeah.
Yeah, so I just stayed away from it my whole life. Even though, like,
Wow.
my dad would, try and he'd bring me little sugar packs as a kid, and they would have little Native babies, and he would take me and
Oh.
buy me a drum, or he tried to,
In the, yeah.
get me into my culture, which I'm grateful to for this day,
Wow.
But there's still, even now, there's still that fear of what's right, what's wrong,
Your
and
identity.
how far do I want to go with that, right?
Wow.
So you lose your, like, being taken away from your culture and your family, you lose your whole sense of identity as a person, right?
Cause I don't think you really, and the thing is, it's hard being a kid. Like it's really hard.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of like, who's my parents, right?
Yeah.
Where do I belong, and who
Yeah.
can I trust? Because you've been sexually abused
Yeah.
when you were a kid, right?
Yeah.
And you don't even fully trust that memory then.
Yeah.
And then you got sexually abused again.
Yeah. And I had attachment disorders.
Yeah.
Like
Disorganized attachment style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I could not connect with my adopted parents. I was
Oh.
in the back of my mind, I had another family out there.
Wow.
And every day I thought about my other family and how I was going to find them. I couldn't
Really?
wait till I was 18 to find my other family.
That's a lot of days.
Yeah, and
A
it was
lot
like
of
I
days.
wouldn't allow myself to
Feel loved.
connect with my family. As much as they tried to love me and as much as they tried to give me a good life,
Wow.
I wasn't able to attach to them.
And that goes exactly to what I was saying. Between the age of 1 and 5, it
Yeah.
determines our
Yeah.
safety in this world. Wow.
Mhm. So,
Wow. How are you dealing with that? How are you healing that now?
well, you take it moment by moment.
Yeah.
You take it day by day, and like it hasn't been an easy journey.
No,
I
at all.
mean, I've been an alcoholic for
I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm just nervous. But
yeah, like I probably haven't really done. I mean, I saw counselors along the lineup as I went through life,
yeah.
and I talked about issues and stuff, but I don't think I really understood a lot of it.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I understood what trauma was and what it does to your body, and that it all made sense. And then
Yeah.
when I was older, I also went to school to become an Aboriginal addictions counselor, and I was told about what happened in the residential schools to my mom
It's hard.
and what happened to us, and it was like a light bulb came on for me that, oh my gosh, now I understand it all.
So for the audience, what is trauma? How do you identify it?
It is, well, for me, it was this excruciating pain of a place I didn't want to, how do I explain this?
Yeah.
It was a place I never wanted to be.
Okay.
I did everything in my power to avoid that place, because that place, whenever I'd go there, that's where the pain was.
And that's where you pick up a drink.
Yeah. And I would do it, like, even, I could keep my mind from going there. I learned different techniques to keep my mind from going to those painful memories.
Because you went through rehab at 18,
Yeah.
so they gave you tools.
Yeah.
But then?
Different experiences in my life
Yeah.
would trigger things. Right?
Just a new devil every day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, as I went on in life, I had children. My children's, when we're in and out of the foster care system, as like my mom, I tried to do the best that I could. I understand now that I was dealing with severe trauma, which was CPTSD.
Yeah. Complex CPT. Complex
Post-trauma.
Post-stress
disorder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also was dealing with addiction.
Yeah.
Plus I had a disability. Plus I had, think about
Shame.
yeah.
What else? Just
Yeah.
give us the list.
Mental health.
Yeah.
Because I struggled with depression from the time that I was 11
Yeah.
and went through the rape. That's when depression hit my life.
Yeah.
And anxiety, fear,
Yeah.
it's all there, right? And
Wow.
I was trying just to make sense of it, right?
Just to survive. You're
Yeah.
just trying to survive every day.
Yeah.
When I look at you now, you don't look like your experience.
Yeah.
Right? So now let's speak to the people who are may hold a little bit of a judgment or resentment towards
Yeah.
an addict.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them?
Never judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
Because just
I
because
agree.
you see the outside doesn't mean that you don't know what that person's been through and what's brought that person
To that point.
to that point
Yeah.
where it's brought them to alcohol or drugs, right? And you don't know what their pain level is. You don't know what their experiences are, right? So
Yeah.
so never look at a person and think less than them because of that.
Yeah.
Because we all go through situations. All of us have been through trauma. Every last person on this earth has been through trauma, and some more than others, right?
Some don't realize there's trauma.
Yeah.
But I feel like that they're the most traumatic because you block it, right?
Yeah. But the best thing you can do for yourself is start realizing this is trauma. and understanding it and understanding yourself and why you feel the way you feel.
Yeah.
And start actually saying, okay, I'm going to actually talk about this, because if I don't talk about this, I don't know, you know, because
Yeah.
like when I was 18 years old, my body shut down.
Tell us about that.
I started having severe stomach pain,
Yeah.
and then I ended up having like, I don't know what kind of seizures they were. They were almost like a seizure where my neck would just start shaking. And I think that I understand it's a nerve disorder, which is like the
Nervous system.
yeah.
Yeah. Because it holds on to the memory of the trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah. As much as we can drink it away or whatever, it's
Yeah.
it's literally in our body.
Yeah, and I think that along with the alcohol, you know,
Yeah.
maybe caused me to go through those episodes, right? But I found that when I would go into recovery and I would go through the programs, I would go through those episodes.
Yeah.
And because my body couldn't handle coming out of that and actually going, okay, I've got to talk about this now. It was so overwhelming that was my body's way of handling it.
Okay, before we started recording, you said you felt something in your stomach.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that could very much likely be that.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so, actually.
Because I mean, since I've started talking about this, I can feel
Like just now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that my emotions are going off, or the
Yeah.
irregularities shooting out, and I can notice that. But I've learned ways to deal
cope
with it now.
So
Right?
how do you deal with it?
Well, I just have to remember that I'm safe.
Yeah.
You know that, and just kind of sometimes I have to look at things around me. I have to feel things around me. I have to hear things around
To
me.
ground.
To ground myself. Yeah. And because you go through, a lot of people who've had trauma, they go through dissociation, right?
Yeah, I've seen
And
that.
I've experienced a lot of that in my life where
Yeah.
things are happening around me, but I feel like I'm not even there,
Yeah.
you know, and then you come out of it and it's like, what the heck is going on here, right?
Wow.
So, you know.
So like to kind of give everyone my confession, right, of my sin is when I saw someone go through the addiction, right, there was actions and things that was done towards me that didn't make me feel good, right, but then that was before I understood the trauma and what it does to the body. So there was just a lot of judgment, right, and it came from like a lack of understanding, and it came from like this selfish need of like, okay, like why aren't you treating me well, right, what did I do wrong, right, taking it personal. But this whole addiction and the trauma thing is not personal. No, it's sometimes the person is just fighting their own demons, and we get in the way, so the crossfire hits us, right. So that's something I want to share with people. If you have a loved one that is dealing with addiction right now, have some compassion, right. We can't control them. We can't, like, there's no perfect world, there's no perfect person. Like, we're all here to learn our lessons. And I know for a fact from dealing with a lot of addicts that sometimes they have the ability to light up a room, right? And it's sometimes it's selfish of us to ask for them to be sober, to be a certain way, when you just mentioned the nervous system and what it does to you, and the flashback and the pain that they feel. So now the vice that they use is just a way to mitigate the pain, right? Because the whole medical system, when you go tell them, hey, I feel this way, they just put you on antidepressant to numb you, right? So there's no right or wrong here, right? And this is not promoting people to use drugs to fix their problem, but my point is to just have compassion for somebody that's going through it, especially if you love them. And I feel that when you love somebody, you can't control it. It's not a choice, right? It's not a choice. But judgment is a choice, right?
Patience and compassion
Yeah.
go a long way. And if you were to sit down with that person and really give that person a chance, you're going to find that this person is very talented,
Breaks your
very
heart.
smart.
Yeah.
They just need somebody to encourage them enough to be able to pick themselves back up and say,
Hope.
to be able to find that hope in them, right? Because the sad thing is a lot of them have lost it, and it's just a few, that are able to get into these programs that are out there and get the help that they need, there's other ones that will never have the chance to even have that, or the courage to have that. They'd rather stay, because they're too scared to go and face that pain.
There's too much shame. There's too
Yeah.
much shame.
Yeah.
And another thing I know too is that they don't want to disappoint people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they rather not try,
Yeah.
because if they try, it'll give their loved ones hope. But if they can't fight that demon, then it would
Yeah.
disappoint them.
That's right.
And when I found that out, it's hard to believe,
Mm-hmm.
because we have this judgment of like, okay, you're an addict, like why would I believe you? Are you lying? What do you want from me, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of the times these people are telling you the truth. They're telling you the truth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
They're real people.
It's crazy. They're real people.
And they
They're
need
real
love and
people.
compassion like we do too, right?
Yeah,
And just, it's hard to love an addict.
yeah.
I've had to go through it as well, and
We're gonna touch on that later on too.
yeah, but it's you have to just keep loving them, and just keep. And sometimes you have to step out of the situation and walk away to be able to show that love. And certain, because there were certain situations in my own life that I had to step out of because the situation became abusive. Because I was trying to help, and my help was hurting that person more than it was. And now I realize that was codependency, right?
Yeah.
But it took me a long time to figure that out. And once I was able to walk away and work on myself again, I was able to start healing,
Yes.
And hopefully that person was able to find some way to heal themselves as well,
Yeah.
right? So,
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
We actually have so much to dive into, and I really want to like it's crazy
Yeah.
how much we can elaborate on this topic. Now, for the last 10 minutes of our podcast, I want to talk about the happy ending.
Yeah.
The last time you went to rehab, what triggered it? How did you get out of it? How did you step out of this?
My last time in treatment
Yeah.
was a little over 5 years, I think.
Yeah.
And I left early. I
Oh,
was there. I
you
was
didn't finish
there
it.
for a year program.
A year.
Yeah, and I stayed for 4 months, and in that 4 months, I put my all into healing, and
Wow.
it affected my mental health, where I was having those nervous problems and
Yeah.
shaking and everything.
And the
going
alcohol
back and
withdrawal.
forth. Yeah, and you're in a place where you're surrounded by a bunch of other women who are struggling with the same situation, but I made a promise to myself. I looked at myself and I said, I'm 50 years old now, or no, I guess I wasn't quite 50, but I was almost 50.
Yeah, 49.
I said, it's time for me to take this journey. It's time for me to start facing my fears, because I don't want to be like this anymore. I don't want to be drunk anymore. The need to be sober and the need to get out of this lifestyle was,
You're just sick of it.
yeah, you literally get sick of it, and it was really strong, and I know that was God taking that desire away from me.
Did you have a relationship with God before that?
I've always believed in God.
Oh,
I've always
wow.
tried to have a relationship with Him, but
Yeah.
when you are in addiction, that separates you from God, right? And it takes you away from God
And the
because of
feeling
the
of
guilt and shame. Yes.
unworthiness to be deserving
Yes,
of
yeah.
His help.
And it's
Okay.
not that God walks away from us; it's we walk away from Him.
Yeah,
right?
pretty
Because we
much.
don't think we're worthy.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
But then why did you leave early?
Well, I had a friend there,
Yeah.
and she had decided we got together, and we had both gotten really, really close, and she had decided she was going to leave, and I was
You're like, I'm coming.
and what it wasn't her at all. It was my own decision to leave, but it made me realize that I think I was craving. Right? I knew I was healing, but I knew that when I walked away from that place, that a deep healing had taken place in my life.
Okay, let's clarify this,
Yeah.
because I'm a little confused. So you were really fed up with everything.
Yeah.
You did your 4 months.
Mhm.
You were craving alcohol,
Yeah.
but that's how you quit. So what happened after you left?
I got out.
Yeah.
I went to a friend's house, and I think I drank that night, that first night.
Wow.
I did go back into addiction again.
For how
But it
long?
was for a very short time.
Yeah.
Because I started drinking again, and then I actually relocated back to Calgary, Alberta.
Yeah.
And when I got back to Calgary, I think I dabbled in a little bit of weed and alcohol there for a while, and I decided this every day it was, I don't want this life anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I want something better for myself. I want to get somewhere in life and do something, right?
Wow. Okay.
And that's when I started realizing, even in that time, that my story can actually help other people.
So that was the seed of awareness of your purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, let me clarify this, okay? Just for the person, just for the parents or the loved one of an addict that went through rehab and didn't complete it because there's a lot of shame there, but you wanted healing,
Mm-hmm.
you went through rehab,
Yeah.
you got your craving, you went out and you got a taste of that life one last time, and you're
Yeah.
like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
good for you.
And my relationship with God was strengthened, right?
Yeah.
And that helped me to realize that I want more than just this drink.
It was the last hurrah. It was like
Yeah.
the last
Yeah.
taste of this sick ass
Yeah.
medicine that you've been taking.
And I literally was praying, God, take this desire for a drink away from me for years.
So was it overnight or like what? Like
It was literally overnight for me.
really?
Yeah.
But
I
what about
just-
the withdrawal?
Well, I mean, the withdrawal was, I never went through a real severe withdrawal, like hangovers
Really?
and stuff. But I was a beer drinker, so I wasn't a
Oh.
hard liquor drinker.
Yeah,
And that'll give you more withdrawals than anything. But,
hard liquor.
you know, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
That's so
it was a
fascinating.
process. I think for the last 3 years before that,
Yeah.
my mind was starting to open up and expand and realize that I want to do more than just be a drunk. You know, I want something more for my life.
You started letting God in.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And once I opened that door to God, that was where, you know,
Like
I
boom.
was really ready to,
Bang, it's done.
yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
That's fascinating.
And then all of a sudden one day it was like I woke up and I never wanted to touch another drink again. And there was a time before that I thought, I will never be able to walk away from this alcohol.
A lot of addicts think that way.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's shine some light into that.
Yeah.
The mindset, because it's the
Yeah.
mindset.
Mhm.
I will never be able to quit
Yeah.
to overnight.
Yeah.
I don't even know what question to ask, but can you tell us about that?
Well, honestly, like, and this comes back to God again.
Yes. Yeah.
But that for me is my miracle solution, right?
Wow.
God was, you know,
You kept praying for it.
yeah. I just kept trusting that one day God's gonna break me free of this. He will.
But
right?
then you also, clarify this, because you also had the belief that you would never be free from your addiction, but yet you kept asking God. So
Yeah.
what is that like?
It was hard, you know.
Yeah, of
it was hard
course.
to have that faith that God will come through for you.
But it was, at that time, it's just a blind faith.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
your mind, your logical mind thought otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you do that?
I didn't do anything. It was him that did it.
Wow. Because the reason I'm asking is that, like, if you could, that's also like a valid answer, but
Yeah.
I guess I was hoping for something more like human, logical, but there's no logic in this God stuff. There's no
No.
logic. You know what I
No,
heard?
it's faith. It's all faith.
Yeah. A miracle is, I forgot. Something along the line of a miracle is an illogical event that is good for you, that is beneficial for you, and that's a miracle. And
Or a divine intervention.
yeah,
You know,
wow,
miracles happen when you open yourself up to what God can do for you in your life.
that's crazy.
And once I was able to get to that place, I saw many miracles happen in my life.
I bet the way that we met was a miracle.
Yeah.
And how you ended up in my place today
Yeah.
doing this podcast and going on this journey
Yeah.
is a miracle, right?
Yeah.
So we're just about to end this podcast, but just before we end this, we're gonna do this every week, and it wasn't just alcohol that was your problem.
No.
You cheated death many times,
Yeah.
been abused by a narcissist,
Mhm.
3 children,
Yeah.
uh, who have suffered from addiction as well.
Yeah.
One is on East Hastings right now,
Mhm.
7 grandchildren.
Yeah. Intergenerational trauma, watching it happen through my bloodline.
Yeah. What else? What did I miss?
Um, just good question. Just watching God do the transformation.
Yeah.
That was the big thing, and just that the whole piece to the ending of all this is that if you have faith in God, God will come through for you.
I agree.
But you've got to open yourself up to the reality of what doesn't make a lot of sense.
I agree. The
You know?
miracles.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions for us, and anything that you want to know first, right? Put it in the comment. Let us know. Otherwise, we'll be back again next week. Honestly, I don't even know where to start, but we're just letting God kind of guide us, right?
Yeah.
Anything you want to tell the audience? Any words of advice, love?
Mm. Just learn to love yourself, and open the door to God, and your life will actually change.
Awesome.
Miracles do happen. People do sober up, and it's a beautiful thing. And I'm blessed to be able to work with people every day that I get to watch the transformation in their lives.
Awesome. I love that. Okay, let's just end with, I'm going to let you lead the prayer for all the addicts out there and the people suffering.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Heavenly Father, I just thank you for the opportunity to be able to share my own experience in addiction. And I pray, Father God, that you will use this podcast to reach those who are still hurting and broken out there and facing all the traumas that they are. I pray, Father, that you will help them to find the strength and the hope that I found, and to be able to open themselves up to you, because you are a God who is a God of miracles, and I've watched you do miracles in my own life. I thank you, Father, that you've divinely set this whole situation up, and I thank you, Lord, that your hand is upon us and in this. And I do believe that you will use this for your glory and for good. And I just want to give you all the glory and all the praise for everything you've done. Amen.